All right, now that the module logic is finished, let us tackle the metadata about the new resource we're about to create. So there are three other files in the DSC resources folder that comes with the dev package. The first one we're going to tackle is the schema.mof. So the first to do we have here is to replace the resource name. Right, so the friendly name is just the short name that begins with the acronym of the workload, so in this case, EXO sweep approval. The full name is a sim instance class, so this has to start with MSFT, right? It matches with the folder here. So MSFT underscore and then the name of our resource. This part here we don't touch. Everything's already provided. What we need to do now is go and provide the definition for our properties. So my primary key, in my case, is name. Now the description piece is what is going to be driving the documentation of the website. This is automatically pulled from here. So it's important to get it right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the documentation and I'm going to find the name definition for this here. Sorry, I went straight past it. So I'm going to go and copy this here, come back to Visual Studio, and then I'm going to say this here is the, somehow my copy didn't work. So I'll come back here and say this is the definition for my property. So I've done the same thing for all other parameters in my resource. I'm just going to go here and then bring this over. So all the parameters there, make sure you identify the type properly. So for example, when you have integers, those should be unsigned in 32. If you have Boolean, make sure you mark them correctly. The rest should be string. So now that we've done the muff file, let's move on to the README file. So README is going to be, the title is sweep rule, important to change. And then the description, again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and take a look at this here. Basically, it will say, all right, so let's bring this over and we'll massage it a bit, right? We'll do something like this resource or use this resource to create accruals in mailbox, blah, blah, blah. Perfect. That looks good. I'm just going to copy this over. Now we're going to go to the settings.json. Again, I'm going to go and put in the definition that I've just copied. I'm going to go do EXO sweep rule as the resource name. Now, in this case, I don't have any API permission. This is Exchange. From a role perspective, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and type in Exchange, and then this is what we need to control that resource. So we've now completed the metadata piece of our resource. So the last piece of documentation that we need to address are the examples. So if you navigate to the examples in the solution, as I mentioned previously, every example will end up having three tests, right? Well, depending on what type of resource it is, right? So for example, attribute sets can be removed, so it can only be created and updated. In this case, so there's only two tests, but in most cases, those will have three tests: create, update, and remove. So what we'll do is we'll find the resource name folder that was copied as part of the dev package. We're going to go and rename this to EXO sweep rule. Okay. And then we're going to take a look at the create test. So essentially, it is expecting a block, a declarative block that represents a sweep rule. So what we're going to do here is kill two birds with one stone. We're going to go and do an export of our new component, sweep rule. So in my case here, I'm just passing in my integration environment parameters. And I'm going to say start and export on my new resource. That will not only test the logic of my resource, but it will also generate a file that I can use to copy and paste into my examples. So as I mentioned previously, I had to change the logic a bit for this resource. So it's now looping through all the mailboxes I have in my environment. So it is a fairly small tenant that only has 31 mailboxes. So we should be good. And just to add to the suspense, it's only the last mailbox out of the 31 that does have sweep rules. So we're going to see once we hit that test two mailboxes that it has two rules, named the same in this case, but it will go in and we'll export those. So it should just be a few seconds before it finishes. And we'll see those two entries from Michelle, perfect. I exported two instances. Where do I want to store it? In my CDST folder. I'm just going to go and open this up. And then you can see that I have my two test rules that have been created. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to go and copy this. go back to my create example, and I'll use this. I'll take care of the alignment later on, but trying to keep things as clean as possible. I'm going to go in the update one. I'm going to do the same thing, but this time what I'll do is I'll actually go and do a drift here, right? So I normally put a comment beside the drift so that we remember. I'm going to go in and say this is now 13 days, so it's no longer in the desired state. And then the remove one, I'm going to use the same thing, but this time what I'll do is I'll actually set this to be absent. And to be quite honest, I can go and remove the other parameters because they're not required. The only thing that will be is the name, which is the primary key here. Okay, so we now have all the metadata and documentation completed for our new resource.